Do you think that the Senate is going to take that to the floor? I mean, I know that, in order to get the government funded, most people just want a clean bill. They just want to fund the government and not have anything else in it. But there is an opportunity for a reconciliation package later this year. Are there other opportunities when, in fact, they can take this up? And let me just remind you that Chuck Schumer said it's dead on arrival when it gets to the Senate.
Look, at America's New Majority Project, we polled this question. It's about an 85 or 90% question. The American people, they understand, you have to have an ID to drive a car. There are all sorts of places. They have to have an ID to get on an airplane. This idea that is somehow terrible. I mean, my advice to, and he doesn't need it because he's doing a great job, but my advice to the majority leader would be, bring it up and bring it up and bring it up and make them vote again and again against it, because the American people understand you're either voting for vote theft and you're voting to allow illegal immigrants to vote, or you're voting for an honest election. This is one of the issues which could, in fact, turn the entire campaign around this fall and give the Republicans a huge advantage.
Because it would expose those people who have really no explanation as to why you would not want an ID to vote. All right, so we'll be watching that to see if he actually does bring it to the floor and bring it up for a vote. Meanwhile, let me move on to the immigration issue. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem is headed to the Tucson sector of the southern border. She went there yesterday. She touted the administration's immigration crackdown. She thanked federal migration agents. Watch this.
Most of all, we thank President Trump for the guts and the love of this country to do the right thing. Under the Biden administration was the greatest humanitarian crisis that we had ever seen in our history, and that it needed to be fixed. And the way that you fix it is you just enforce the law. We've delivered the most secure border in American history, and we did it with the immediate aftermath we were facing from that humanitarian crisis that was created from Joe Biden's open border policies. It is so quiet here now today that sometimes we even forget how bad it was just a little over a year ago.
Meanwhile, new border czar Tom Homan has announced a drawdown of 700 federal agents in Minneapolis due to cooperation with law enforcement. Your reaction?
Well, first of all, sending Tom Homan up there was brilliant on President Trump's part. It calmed everything down immediately. Homan is a clear professional who has served presidents of both parties. And he's doing the right things. But notice, it also meant that governments in Minnesota had to agree that you could take prisoners out of the prisons and not have to go hunt for them. I mean, much of the problem is caused by Democratic mayors and Democratic governors who, and you just saw this being proposed in Virginia by the new Democratic governor, who wants to block any state agency from collaborating with ICE. Well, the fact is, this is a straight federal issue. The American people, by a big margin, wanted us to control the border. The American people want criminals kicked out of the country. And the easiest way to do it would be to have an agreement across the whole country that if you have somebody in prison or the local jail who clearly is an illegal immigrant, just turn them over to the federal government. You don't have anybody in the street. You don't have any raids. You just methodically deport people who are breaking the law. Why the Democrats are the party, I mean, how they became the party of open borders, illegal immigration, and anti-police is one of the most amazing things of the last 10 years.
Well, it's quite extraordinary. That's true. But, you just said that, the Republicans can have a good shot in the midterms if the SAVE Act is pushed. But what about these maps? I mean, the Supreme Court sided with California Democrats in the state's redistricting battle against Republicans. This victory clearing the way for Governor Gavin Newsom to use newly drawn congressional maps that favor Democrats. They favor Democrats by 5 seats, Newt. We've already talked about this razor-thin majority that the Republicans have in the House.
Look, if you believe politics is static and it's sort of a Polaroid camera, then we're in deep trouble. If you believe politics is mobile, and in fact it's like a motion picture, look at Harry Truman, look at George H.W. Bush. Bush was down 19 points in May, and he won by 8 points. So he switched every fourth American in the campaign. if the Republicans have the right campaign, they're going to keep the House, increase their vote in the Senate, because if the people move, it doesn't matter that you reapportion. Remember, gerrymandering was the last desperate effort of the Federalists as Jefferson was annihilating their party. But the wave of popular support for Jefferson just crushed the gerrymandering. So I would say to Republicans, starting with the fact that every Democrat voted against every tax cut in July of last year. Every Democrat. So you have issues here that will move the whole country if the Republicans get their act together, try to learn how to communicate, and take Reagan and Trump as their models rather than being passive and quiet.
Okay, all great points from you, Mr. Speaker. Always a pleasure. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Former Speaker of the House, Newt Gingrich, stay with us. We'll be right back.